Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So in this video, I'm going to have a look at a game called Frontier. So Frontier, I guess when it first came to people's attention, there wasn't really much going on there. So there wasn't much information. And I guess the sort of key bit of information we first had was that Ubisoft was an investor in the company. Even now, when we've got a bit more information about the game, or actually quite a lot more information about the game, although still not yet a white paper, it's sort of the fact that Ubisoft have invested in them is still sort of a key bit of information. We don't really know very much about the team. I assume they've probably come out of Ubisoft, hence that's why Ubisoft have invested in them. And with that sort of in mind, I'm guessing that sort of Ubisoft is using them a little bit as an experiment to see how you sort of deal with make a blockchain game that in a way that they can't necessarily do internally within Ubisoft. So that's just me sort of slightly making stuff up. But there we go. Let's have a look at the information that we've got. So we'll look at some assets. So there's quite a lot of assets on OpenSea that you can buy. It's all on the Ethereum blockchain. It's not very clear what blockchain they're going to run on in terms of the game. Are they going to run on the Ethereum mainnet that would be sort of very crypto heavy and expensive for gas fees and stuff like that? I guess they're probably not going to do that. But there is information about the game. I just click through the website. So we can see here, this is sort of what the game, I think this is not exactly what the game's going to look like, but this is this sort of thing where you have these this sort of maps, sort of PvP. So you have one team who has these sort of robot type sort of soldier characters, ones with different abilities, and they have sort of weapons and different sort of buffs and nerfs and stuff like that to sort of play, and you sort of so if someone wins, someone loses, that sort of thing. There is this sort of lore. I'm not a massive fan of sort of a lot of backstory, but it seems like these guys sort of quite into the missing watcher, and there's like a video of some sort of stuff there. There's going to be this sort of interactive thing on Twitter. So there's all that sort of stuff going on. And then you had sort of, as I said, the units, the soldiers, various forms of that, then these sort of blocks. So it's obviously sort of, blockchain blocks, block heavy. So you have these flash blocks, so you can equip 2 of those, and a glitch block, I'm guessing probably just 1 of those. And we'll see some assets around that. This looks a bit more like sort of the gameplay we might be thinking. The galactic map is split into hundreds of unique sections to be conquered. Start with one sector, expand your territory, pay attention to the black hole, it's coming for everyone. So that seems a little bit like Battle Royale. So Battle Royale on the blockchain, you're sort of, but some sort of territory that you gain as well. As with blockchains, so stuff, all Genesis, Frontier, NFT holders are guaranteed perks and airdrops. There's a key, gives you access to stuff, rewards, prize pool, the sort of things we expect in blockchain games. So there's going to be a token, and like 50% of the revenue of the game, it seems, will go into the token. So there we go. So units, what have we got? So watchers and zeros. So one has the next one has a bit Squid Games, isn't it? So there's watchers here. I mean, I don't say, I'm just sort of I don't have any deeper knowledge in this. So the game is going to be free to play. So there are all these assets on blockchains, some of which are fairly expensive or very expensive. But they are there's going to be sort of free to play elements as well. So watchers look like the sort of free elements, different skins. Sort of slightly confusing to me that they are sort of seem to do a lot of their stuff on Rarible. So Rarible is just another marketplace, but it's not really, people don't use it that much. So, but they've got it seems like some of the watches are, some of that stuff is happening with Rarible. So these are sort of some of these sort of get the idea of sort of the PvP characters. So we have these sort of historic ones. These are all sold out and sort of very expensive now. We have a bit more sort of generic elemental ones. So watches are the heroes of Frontier. And then you have this idea of skins. Special skins contain game tokens, sector skins, priority in game queues. That sort of stuff is not very sort of clear to me what's going on with that. So we have those guys, and we have the zeros, which are more like an airdrop. So there's a generative season pass airdrop. So we have the specials and the classics. Again, these are on OpenSea. and they sort of act more as sort of metagame assets, I suppose. So effectively a season pass, and there's other stuff you can do with them. We'll have a look at. So those are the units. So blocks are weapon, shield, traps, and hacks. So these are the ones that you can have. You can equip 2 of. So these sort of things you might expect, like shells, but things like other sort of attributes. And then there's the glitch blocked as well, which for some reason they're not showing on here. Then we have keys. So specifically, we have sort of these keys, 2 different sorts: data key and a stellar key. So again, this is sort of giving you sort of blockchain attribute features, special access to things. Proposal, so like a governance key. They went through this process of these were created in these black boxes, some of which are still available, but there's sort of this idea that if you open your black box, you get the data key. If you burn your black box, you can maybe get one of these stellar keys. So I kind of think, Frontier, I think for me, it's always been quite difficult to get my head around it. It's not that the concept itself is complex, but you have to sort of learn how it all fits together, and there's lots of sort of these burn mechanics and lots of things that you burn to produce other things, and that all gets a bit complex when you come at it from the first time. Game tokens. The data key can be activated to receive game tokens. I mean, as far as I know, that hasn't happened yet, and it's saying then tokens are providing airdrops and in-game utility. This is happening at the game launch. So again, complicated. So how are we doing with roadmap? This is we're just sort of past phase 0. There's this idea of staking stuff. Tokenomics are being worked on, so that we'll see how quickly that sort of happens. A whole bunch of rewards happening. A text-based PvP Discord game with a $30,000 prize pool. So sort of in the very early stages, and then we're sort of coming to phase 1. So there's going to be merch kits from Genesis Week. So that's sort of physical merch looks like, merch tokens, partnerships. So again, this sort of stuff is sort of a little bit sketchy. Co-development studio will be revealed, so we'll get a bit more about who's actually making the game. White paper, ICO. I mean, obviously, I don't think you're going to be doing an ICO at the moment, given crypto pricing and stuff like that, and just generally sort of trends around tokens. I think is people are pushing tokens back to when games come out. A blacklist for minting more stuff. Okay, they're going to run a layer 2, so that will be part of a decision, I guess, around white paper. APIs, generative battle pass, and then there's going to be some gameplay stuff. So again, this is all sort of fairly complex, and they're saying sort of game launch actually in 2022. We'll see how things go on. And again, the other sort of thing is, I think when all this stuff was put out there, obviously it was a time when everyone was much more excited about sort of crypto prices going up. That's not the case now. So that needs to sort of feed into what projects are doing, and a whole bunch of other stuff here we got as we go into different phases. So also look at the FAQ. So it doesn't really sort of tell us much more what we've seen before, but it says even though you can play for free, you basically want 1 glitch block and 2 flash blocks. It doesn't say how many watches you need. It talks about rarity and also how you can increase rarity, so you can burn things, merge, upgrade, craft. So that, it'll, after a while, I think all this sort of stuff becomes a bit of a blur. Yeah, let's have a quick look at this is on OpenSea. So this is when we sort of get a look at some of these sort of assets that are there. So we get these ideas of, we have these 0 Genesis and 0S Genesis characters. So these are these sort of act as keys. You can actually burn them as well. We can have a look at that process. There's a whole bunch of others, these sort of assets. So we have sort of these bullets, and different types of these sort of flash blocks and glitch blocks. These are priced. It's hard to judge really if these are priced well or not. We have the data keys. So 3 ETH even now is sort of fairly expensive. So this is like a factor of 1 in 10. And we have some of these sort of playable characters looks like coming in. So there's the first watcher there, cheapest watcher, and then we have these other sort of watchers, 20 ETH. I mean, that seems like a bit over the top. 70 ETH. So there's sort of it's interesting. I think it's the more you sort of dig into these sort of games, and I think these sort of games, there's a few like this that are very sort of sophisticated in how they present stuff, and I think that's sort of a good way of positioning your project, but equally it can sort of confuse people, and that can sort of cause one that means you don't necessarily have a large audience who's looking at this stuff, or also it can mean you sort of get a large audience who just think this thing is going to be make them tons of money, and probably neither approach is that good. And obviously, until games go live, there is generally a lot of speculative value locked into these things, even though some of these are relatively cheap. It's really not very clear what's going on with this. One other thing to point out at the moment is, and this is actually one of the reasons I'm doing the video, is there's a reveal this week. So at the moment, if you buy a Genesis, a Zero Genesis or Zero S Genesis, these characters, you can go and burn them, and basically you can you end up with one of these, a watch ID. So this is a sort of a PFP sort of play they're doing here. So you take the interesting thing here is if you spend 0.078 to buy a Zero Genesis and burn that, obviously you pay gas fees. But the other version of that is you're paying 0.1 ETH. So there's a sort of a markup process here. I guess people don't know what's going on. And there's these ones here. These are 0.28. So these ones with the red eye, and these are, if we go back here, so these ones have the cross, and these ones have the red eye. So these ones are 0.14. So you can take one of those and burn it. And again, sort of pricing is a bit off here. So just always be very careful about sort of pricing, particularly for unrevealed assets. And if we go back to there's a whole bunch of stuff here around this sort of this ID. So this is sort of showing when those watch ID NFTs are revealed. Then there's 3 different sort of classes or teams or whatever. So there's Historic, Council, and Vaporware. So they just ran a competition to see which ones they were going to reveal. And the Vaporware was the ones that were revealed. So that's sort of the next sort of thing that's happening in Frontier. So I do think it is interesting. It is sort of at a higher level of marketing compared to a lot of these what we would typically have called sort of play-fi or play-to-earn games. But sort of the problem is sometimes with some of these very complicated or the more complicated games and these more sort of hidden games where they sort of don't give you all the information, then it's actually quite hard to work out what's going on. And particularly with these ones where you have so many assets, then that can be quite hard to get your head around. Is which assets do you want? Why would you want them? Why these ones priced at that level? And that sort of stuff. Really, you don't really get a good idea of it until the game comes out. So I think we're a bit of a way off for that. But I think it's just interesting. So obviously not investment advice or anything like that, but interesting to see how some of these games are positioning themselves. So I would say keep an eye on Frontier. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out as more information comes through. I guess the next big thing after the reveal of these PFPs will be the white paper, so something we look out for. Anyway, thanks for watching. It's Blockchain Gaming World, trying to make sense of what's going on. Please subscribe to the channel. See you again soon.